Flosstube, it's Stephanie here, Ms. Oh So Crafty. Welcome back to my channel, or hello if you're new. Today is Friday, March 8th, 2019, and this is my Flosstube video number 64. How crazy is that? So, it's been almost 3 weeks since I filmed, and I figured it was time because I prefer to have shorter videos versus last week. Last time, it was such a monster. My video was almost an hour long, and I even forgot to show you some of my stash just because it went on for so long. So this time, there'll be less things to show, and hopefully the video will be a little shorter. But I still have plenty of stitching, never fear. So let's get into it, and I have a lot of things to talk about between magical stitches and semi-sane stitchers and Stitchopoly and district games, all these different things going on. It's almost too much, but not really. I'm handling it. I just make my little list and I go through one by one. So, all right. So when I left you last, or when we last checked in, it was, let's see, February the 18th, President's Day, and it was a Monday. Magical Stitches homework had just came out, and this was year 2, week 4. So year 2 was the Chamber of Secrets. The theme for the week was Basilisk Attack, because that's what happens in the end of the book, right? And one of the tasks was something related to a phoenix, so you were supposed to stitch something that had like a change to it, something you had to change or alter, and I chose Celtic Winter because I did my own color conversion on this. And I also added the cape to it. The cape was charted by Natalie G. So I did use Natalie's colors for the dress, but I used my own colors for the cape. So that was like 200 stitches or whatever, and then there was another prompt on that homework to stitch something related to a skeleton. So I said, well, because in the book, the graffiti on the wall says her skeleton will lie in the chamber forever, right? So I said Celtic Winter is also a girl with a skeleton under her dress and her clothes, right? So I did another 200 for that, and that took like one evening, I think. So yeah, I just worked on these darker colors basically. And I think I did a little bit more while I watched the Chamber of Secrets as the extra credit. So I wound up probably with like 500 stitches in all or something. So it's coming along, and I'm looking forward to working on it again this month. I think it's in the cards for this month. Alright, so that was Celtic Winter, and then the next project that I wanted to focus on for February was Fantasy Triptych, and fortunately I was able to make that work for the one of the homeworks for that week, continuing on the Basilisk Attack. So the task was to fight the monster, so stitch something that had a weapon in it, and this piece has a, well, it's not stitched yet, but next to the castle, there's going to be a knight with a sword, so the sword certainly counts as a weapon. In fact, that was the weapon that Harry used in the book to fight the monster, Gryffindor's sword. And so I worked on that, and I got like 200 stitches in here, and then I decided to continue on it for purposes of an ultimate challenge. So the ultimate challenge was, it had to do with the 7 floors of Hogwarts, and I said, well, this is a castle that also has 7 floors, or it could, I mean, it's certainly big enough. You'll see that as I get into more of the castle. So I got 1,000 stitches on it. All this was in 3 days, and those were some hard 1,200 stitches, let me tell you. I mean, this is just like confetti-tastic, and there was a lot going on in those days. My son got sick. Oh man. February was just like not the greatest month. A lot of sickness. Anyway, so good progress on that. Pretty happy with it. I think I'm going to work on it again this month. Maybe just for like 3 days. And then the other project I needed for the homework was, it was stitch something related. So the challenge was, don't look it in the eyes, because in the book, the stare of the basilisk will kill a person, but if you don't look it in the eyes, it will merely petrify you. So the things that would protect you would be like if you saw its reflection in like a mirror or a puddle of water or something like that. And I said Christmas teddy qualified because there's a window in here, and windows have reflective properties like mirrors sometimes in the right light conditions. So this is Christmas Teddy by Joan Elliott, and this was one of my focus pieces for February. So I did give it, I think, 5 days in all. The first little chunk was just like 200 stitches or whatever for the basilisk attack, but then I kept doing it because it was Stitchathon weekend, and it was, so for the Stitchathon weekend, I got like 2,600 stitches between Friday night and Sunday night. How crazy is that? I was very happy. I don't think I've gotten that many stitches for a Stitchathon for a long time, but what helped this time was that the Saturday was just a really gross day, and it was a perfect day to like stand inside and stitch. And this is a Joan Elliott, and it's just a lot of fun to stitch. Not too many colors, not too fiddly. Of course, I haven't gotten into backstitching yet. This is stitched on 32 count white opalescent Belfast. Yeah, sparkle, and they're pretty. And what I did is I basically, well, I started right here with the cuff, and I finished the tree, and I did more of the teddy, and did this box with the candy canes, and one of these Christmas ornaments, another Christmas ornament, the Y block, candy cane, ribbons, oh, and the bird, of course. Yeah, there's a lot of detail in here, a lot of things going on. So for the next week, the week beginning February 25th, it was a short week for Magical Stitches, and the assignment was just to stitch 200 blocks on whatever, and I worked on this some. I did a couple 200 stitch blocks, and then I rotated to Save the Stitches. Excuse me for a sec. Alright, so here is my progress on Save the Stitches. This is a pattern by Elizabeth Allman, Blackwork Journey. It is stitched on 25 count Lugana in the Stormy Cloud colorway by Zwitcheld, I guess, or Zwire. I don't know, I can't remember, but it's a hand-dyed fabric. Well, no, it's not hand-dyed. It's one of those printed ones, so it has color on the front, no color. It's plain on the back. It's white on the back, but it has this bluey gray, like cloudy business going on the front side. So yeah, I wanted to work on this in February, just give it a little love, so I did. I started with the border. I think last time I talked about that, how I had some trouble getting it started. Well, I did get it started, and I worked it across all the way over to here, and then I realized, problem. So there were 2 empty stitches on this side, and there were 6 empty stitches on this side. It was unbalanced. I looked at the chart again. How did this happen? So I found the chart for this border from the freebie section on Elizabeth Allman's website, right? And there are some numbers on the chart. Horizontal number, vertical number, horizontal, vertical. Foolishly, I assumed that those numbers referred to the pattern repeat. So when I was doing my math to figure out, how many repeats, how I was going to place my border and everything, I used those numbers and just multiplied them, right? Well, that was a mistake, because those numbers only refer to the size of the corner motifs. Every motif on the interior of the border is less stitches, a few less in the yeah, a few less stitches basically. So, right, I had to frog it. I had to frog from here all the way across. I had to frog that. Bummer. But I got back on the horse. I redid the math using the correct numbers, which were a little bit more complicated because it was basically a multiplicative number plus a constant, the constant being the n. So it was like 2x plus how many y, whatever. So anyway, I had to figure that out. I did, and I did it. I started here again, worked across, and even worked down on the other side. That took, let's see, how long did I work on that? I think 2 days, the 27th and the 28th. Yeah, I mean, obviously it doesn't take that long to stitch this border pattern because it is, well, it's just black work and it's a very simple repetitive thing, so I don't have to like look at the chart or anything, just stitch, stitch, stitch. So I'm using the solid DMC, the 336 for the border, and I'm using variegated 4240 for the interior motifs, and I'm using diamond thread, DMC diamond, and copper, gold, and silver. I also worked a little bit more on part 3, which is this one over here. So I finished this block. This block. I finished this block, and started on this one. Yeah, so it's coming along. Not bad progress for 2 days. I do want to work on it more this month and give it like 5 days or something, so that should be plenty of time to finish part 3, work the border down to part 3, start part 4, and work the border down a little bit more to cover part 4. I like to work borders as I go because borders are not my favorite thing, so yeah, so that was the week 4 homework, and I got like 13 sets, I think, of the 200. So, and of course, it only counted as half with the back stitch, so the black work. Yeah, so it was actually a lot more individual stitches than that, but yeah. Lots of stitches. I was surprised at how many I got on that short week because it was just like the 3 days, the 25th, the 26th, no, 4 days, 25, 26, 27, 28, yeah. But yeah, I really enjoy working on this a lot. It's fun. It's easy. It's pretty easy. I mean, the black work is a little harder than I expected because each pattern is different and you kind of have to look at the design and figure out the best way to stitch it, the most efficient way. So that's kind of like a fun puzzle. So it is like intellectually engaging. It's not difficult per se. It's fun. The border though it's boring because same thing over and over. I'm not one of those people who like stitching the same thing over and over, so it's really not my cup of tea. All right, so then it was March, right? So March started, and for March, I went back to Winnie the Pooh. And we also got new homework for March. And it was really short homework for that first week in March because it was just March 1st was a Friday, so it was just like 3 days, March 1st, 2nd, 3rd. And the homework for that week was like, it was just like catch up homework or whatever. And we had to post a list of our whips, like up to 20. Well, you had to do your 20 top whips or all your whips if you had less than 20. And then the assignment was to do like 150 stitches on 2 of those whips, or do 300 on one, depending on the situation. So in my particular situation, I did Winnie the Pooh and Christmas Teddy. So I already showed you Christmas Teddy, so I did another 150 for that homework, and then Winnie the Pooh, I will get, Winnie the Pooh is right here. So I started working on this on March the 1st. I gave it 5 days, but not really, because I did split the time with some other projects. Really, it was only like 4 days, so here's my current progress. So what I did is when I took it out on March 1st, I started working up here on the first page, and I did the back stitch on it, which was just like tree branches, basically. It's kind of not even that easy to see, but yeah, tree branches. And then I came over here to page 2, and tree branches, also Winnie the Pooh. Didn't he turn out cute? Look at his dear little face and his little smile and his nose, and he's looking down at Christopher Robin. The balloon string, and then it didn't say to backstitch the balloon, but I did anyway because I felt like I should. I mean, the balloon is very clearly in the foreground of this scene, so why ever not, right? And then there's a little bit of backstitching below Al. There's like a branch that he's sitting on, and there's other branches in the tree, throughout the tree. And then I came down here to page 3, which was like a test. There are like 10 billion French knots charted on this page. You see those? So I did them all. There's ones in the orangey color, and the pink, and the red, another red, blue for bluebells, and white. And then there was backstitching for, there's a few more tree branches and stuff over here, and then there's backstitching for Eeyore and Rabbit. So Eeyore came out pretty good, no fuss. But then Rabbit, the backstitching just didn't really cut it. It was too pale, so I had to rip some of it and redo his like belly area, the white, in a slightly darker gray. And I had to fix his face too. The chart for Rabbit is just, it's awful. It has like, I guess because of the details and everything, the pattern symbols are really small, and it's not clear like necessarily what's supposed to go where. Basically, you need to have all the fabric covered. I'll just put it that way. So I had to go back and do some over one stitching to fill it in. And Rabbit is also a lot of the backstitching for Pooh, for Eeyore, and for Rabbit is done over one thread. So that was fun. Need a nice sharp needle. A lot of backstitching going through the middle of the over 2 squares as well. A very detailed backstitching. And then I came back over here to page 4 and started stitching again. So I did like, I finished the column that I was on, and then I did like another column. So that was like 1,200 stitches or something. Minus the petite point sections, and then all this blank area in here, that's going to be done with blending filament. This is a petite point section. The worst was this little gray thing down here. I think that's a badger, and I did do the French knots for it because I had the black thread on the needle, so I put in his eyes. He needs a lot of backstitch. I hope that it'll come out a little better once the backstitching is in. Be more clear what it is. Yeah, so all in all, I put in 2657 stitches on Winnie the Pooh this month. And that was, I mean, the back stitch I'll only count for half, so French knots counted for one. Yeah, so I started doing this for my homework, and then since I had like a lot more of it that I wanted to do, I started putting it into my March, April extra credit. So I did 500 stitches for the betrayer task, which is stitch on a project that had betrayed you. And Pooh is definitely a betrayer, starting with the having to restart it 3 times because of the not so even weave and then the subpar floss. But yeah, I could write an essay on the way this project has betrayed me, but I won't because nobody cares. So. And then 500 stitches for, there was another one to stitch on a project that represents another part of the world, and I did another 500 stitches for that because this is the 100-acre wood, and the 100-acre wood is part of the forest of something or other in England. And Winnie the Pooh was written by British author A.A. Milne, and the 100-acre wood was like part of his like local forest or whatever. So I live in the United States of America. The forests in England are definitely a different part of the world. And then there was another challenge to do like a redo, because there's like the time travel aspect, going back and redoing in the book, Prisoner of Azkaban. So I did this again. I did another 500, just redid the betrayer because this project has betrayed me so many times. And then there was their project, there was a task for the Dementors. So the Dementors suck the life out of you. So the idea was this is something that sucks the life out, and you only had to do 200 for that one. So I did that, the French knots. I mean, honestly, if you had to do that many French knots, don't you think it would suck the life out of you too? When I look at it now, I can't even believe I did it. I mean, it was just like, it was crazy. It's like hundreds of French knots. And there's more to do. Oh, and there's a few more over here as well. So this whole area is going to be French knotted in the blue as well. Yeah, but it's not as bad as page 3. Page 3 was just like the worst. And then for Winnie the Pooh, yeah, well, the first day I worked on it, I worked on Christmas Teddy as well, because I needed the 150 stitches for the homework, and I just wanted to get that out of the way. And then on the 3rd day of my rotation on this, March 3rd, I had my stitchy meetup at the library, and that was so fun. We had a great crowd. Hello, Sumira, and all my local peeps, if you're watching. It was great to see everybody. I don't take this piece to the library, though, because it's big and it's complicated, and yeah. If I took it to the library, I'd probably just wind up frogging whatever I stitch, so I don't. I left this home, and the piece I took to the library was My Bird of Happiness. Oh, right. So it was March 2nd, and also on March 1st, I started playing Stitchopoly with the Semi-Sane Stitchers group. So that's a really fun game. It's basically based around Monopoly, and there's a Monopoly board that Casey has generously provided to us, and in the pictorial form, of course. And each, as you go around the board, you land on different designers and stores, and there's wildcard spaces and stuff. And depending on where you land, you have to do a certain amount of stitches to advance, and then you roll again, and you can roll with actual dice, or you can just roll on a random dice roller, which is what I'm doing on the random.org site. So the Monopoly thing is you have to keep playing it until you fail or whatever, or I guess until the game ends at the end of the month. I think it goes on the whole month. The object is to make it around the board, pass go. Every time you pass go, you get an entry. I guess the entry is for a prize or whatever. I don't really know what the entries are for. I have actually passed go 5 times. That's not to say I've made it around the board 5 times since March 1st. I've only made it around 3 times, but one time I landed on a space that gave me 2 bonus entries. So that was awesome. Yeah, so on March the 2nd, I had to do like 200 stitches or something for Stitchopoly, and I chose to do it on this project, so I did. I worked on the neck and the head, and that was like enough to get me up to 200 stitches, and then I decided to start back stitching because I ordered some Krynic for this piece to do the back stitching. I decided to swap out the back stitch colors with Krynic, and I ordered the Krynic on Friday night from 123 Stitch, and I got an email on Saturday saying that it had shipped. So yeah, I was pretty happy about that. I figured I would have the Krynic in my little hands. So I decided to get started with the one that I had in my stash, which was the gold. So I did the gold on her head and her wings and these swirls. So there's just a little bit more backstitching to do in red and navy blue. So I did purchase Krynics for those. I think I can show them to you later if I organize properly. This was one of my focus pieces for February. The idea was to give it 5 days. I gave it 1 day and it's nearly finished, so it's like an hour away from finishing probably. And I'll probably do that before the end of the month. I don't know. We'll see how dire my Stitch from Stash balance is. I did order again from Mercresti.com. I wanted 2 things that my bobbin was not able to get in stock, so I ordered them from Mercresti.com, and they were kind of pricey. One of them, I'm not sure if I'm going to count against my Stitch from Stash budget because it's a beaded kit, so I have to look at it and see like whether I would consider it to be like stitching or not so much. So that will basically determine how far in the negative. Yeah, Stitch from Stash is not going all that great this cycle. I mean, I'll probably like wind up in the black or whatever, but yeah, I've been carrying a negative balance for the first couple months. Alright, so after that, I got back to Winnie the Pooh and finished up my rotation going up through the 5th of March. So, but like I said, I only got 4 days total, and I really wanted to give this 5. So let's talk about what's left on this piece. So over here, there's another 2,100 stitches to do. And there are 3 petite point sections. One right there, and one that is yet to be revealed. And then there are stitches to do with metallic floss, so all of this, and a little bit in the tree trunk there. I mean, not metallic floss, but blending filament, yeah. And I need to figure out what to do over here with Christopher Robin next to his head. Those are the way that it's charted, it's kind of strange. I think on the original artwork it's just green, but it's like random colors on the chart, so I'm probably just going to do green for that. And then what else to do? Well, all the backstitch and the French knots for this page, page 4, so that would be like Christopher Robin, Kanga. She's holding like a little toy boat or something. So there's that, and then there's backstitch over here. This is like a toy drum, and I assume that's going to be more toys. I think there's backstitch on the door. I know there's backstitch on this little guy, the badger. So quite a lot of backstitch on page 4, and then the French knots, as I mentioned, for the flowers. Some of you might ask, well, why the heck are you doing all these gazillion French knots? Why not just do beads? Well, I love beads. Beading is my jam, but for some things I just think French knots are better. Like for flowers, for example. Flowers are an organic thing, right? And I like French knots better for flowers than for beads because, well, French knots have that, you know, little round rosette sort of appearance to them, and they're not all perfectly even, which is okay because flowers are not all perfectly even in nature. And beads are generally shiny. Flowers are not shiny. So, I mean, I know you can use matte beads and everything, but I just prefer French knots for flowers, so that's what I'm doing. All right, and then it was time, so March 5th, March 6th arrived, it was time for a new rotation, so 5-day rotation, so March 6th. The second project I decided to focus on was my Christmas Village, the Palace Theater. So the homework for this week was involved with Diagon Alley, and the idea was to stitch on something that has things that you could purchase on Diagon Alley, and it was $200 per item, 3 items. So I did do Winnie the Pooh because, hello, wood. This is a forest, right? Tree trunks, branches. That wood would be needed for the wands in Ollivander's shop. And then the second one, Ilops Owl Emporium, because owl, hello, right there. And then the third one, excuse me for a sec, I decided to use my Christmas Village for the Magical Menagerie. There is a cat on this piece. Sorry you can't see it because it's on my frame, but you just have to take my word for it. There's a little black cat in front of the bookseller, and black cats happen to be my favorite, so I said I need a black cat for the Magical Menagerie, and I did 200 on this project. I'm also using this project for the district games, so the idea was to, well, there's 3 tasks. One was to do specialty stitches or beads, another one was to do metallic floss, and then the third one was to do 1,000 stitches on a project involving water. And I don't actually have anything involving water. I do have snow, which this project has plenty of snow, obviously, so I did 1,000 stitches on this one for that piece, for that challenge, and I did 50 stitches in metallic with the border. This was actually a lot more than 50 stitches. I continued on the border because one of the extra credit homework assignments for Magical Stitches in the March-April thing is to do 500 stitches on a frame or border because Sirius Black was framed. So I worked on these snowflakes. I got like 450 stitches. Not too bad. And then I started working on the Palace Theater. So I finished the stitching and I did the back stitching too. It's all ready for beads. This thing is pretty densely stitched. I'm hoping the beading won't take that long. It's a lot more densely stitched than the Queen Anne house, that's for sure. So I've only worked on this 2 days so far. Wednesday, Thursday, today's Friday, so I'll work on it through Sunday, most likely, and the idea would be to finish the Palace Theater with the beading. I'm really hoping I can just beat it tonight and be done with it. Start the post office next door. So I am working on this for an ultimate challenge on the School Magical Stitches. The prompt is to do, well, it has to do with the 7 secret passages to Hogsmeade from the Hogwarts Castle. And I said one of the passages leads to the basement of Honeydukes, which is the sweet shop in Hogsmeade. And Christmas Village also has a sweet shop. The Village Bakery, which you can't actually see because it's in the scroll, sorry. So I'm working on 1,000 stitches for that. And then I'm also going to use this for the 40 beads that I need for the district games because, obviously there's going to be a lot of beads on here. So I'll put on those 40 beads and then I'll be done with the district games. That'll be nice. And I will continue on to get my 1,000 stitches for magical stitches. I mean, I already have like, I think 600 or something since I started counting for that challenge. So I don't know if I'm going to have 400 beads. Maybe, maybe not. But I'll definitely get it like when I start the post office next door. And I'll continue working on the snowflakes and finish off that frame or border extra credit. I only need like another 50 stitches or something. Each of these snowflakes is about 50 stitches. So the larger ones. Yeah. And I'm using this for, oh yeah, I also used it for an extra credit. It's town related or streets, maps, whatever. This is obviously a village, a town, whatever. So I counted 500 stitches on this for that extra credit. So do you want to talk about the extra credit a little bit? I know Jessie Marie did that, and I can tell you what I plan to do for all the extra credits, or what I have done in some cases. So the first one is 500 stitches in black for serious black, so that has to be like 310 or anchor black, whatever, nothing variegated. I'm going to use my Spooky House piece because that's the only thing I have that has a lot of black. It's probably going to be mostly backstitch, so I'll have to do like 600 stitches, but whatever. I can certainly get 600 back stitches on that easy. The second one involves turning back time, something that was designed in or before the 1990s, or reproduction sampler. So happily I have Teresa Wentzler Fantasy Triptych on the go, which copyright 1996, that's in the 90s. And then the third task is betrayer. So stitch on something that has betrayed you, something you love that is turning out harder than you thought or whatever. So like I said, I did Winnie the Pooh for that. The fourth task is Serious Black was framed, work on your frames, borders, whatever. So again, using this piece, the snowflake border, frame, whatever. The task number 5 was stitch on something that makes you think of crystal balls, be creative. So I kind of struggle with that one. I think I'm going to use my Joan Elliott Christmas Teddy piece because, well, for one, it's on this sparkly opal Belfast, which kind of makes me think of a crystal ball because it's sparkly. Secondly, it has glass balls in it, assuming these ornaments are made from glass balls. So yeah, I think this will count for crystal balls. Task number 6 is 500 stitches on something that makes you so happy you can produce your Patronus charm. So I'm going to probably claim this to be the one because this is probably my new favorite whip. Bird of Happiness was, but it's almost done. There's certainly not 500 stitches left on that, so that's kind of out of the running. This is probably my favorite now. Task number 7 is 500 stitches on a project that is set in another part of the world. I did Winnie the Pooh because, like I explained, the 100-acre wood, the forest in England, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Number 8 is 500 stitches on the Marauders map, anything map related or town street related. Like I said, I did use this piece because it is like a town, a little Christmas town, Christmas village, whatever. Number 9 is 500 stitches in a redo of the previous challenge you weren't able to complete. Well, I've completed all of them except for one that was like Stitch DMC 934. I don't have any whips with 934, so whatever. I didn't do that one. That was like an extra credit. So I just decided to repeat the betrayer task, as I mentioned, with 500 stitches on Pooh because that project betrayed me big time. Number 10 is 200 stitches in something that sucks the life out of you, like the Dementor. As previously mentioned, Pooh, the French knots. So yeah, 200 French knots, whatever. It was way more than 200 French knots altogether. It was like close to 1,000 French knots, I think. So yeah. And then task 11 is watch Harry Potter, The Prisoner of Azkaban, post a before and after picture. So I haven't done that yet, but I can use any piece for that. I'm not worried about it. I'll just do it whenever I feel like it. And you have like all of March and April to complete these 11 tasks. So far I've done like 3 of them, almost 4. So yeah, not too bad. March is still young. And I'll continue playing Stitchopoly. So my current task is to do, I think, 200 stitches for something or other, something that I landed on. So I'll do my 40 for the beads for the district games, and then I'll start counting up 200 for Stitchopoly. So the deal with Stitchopoly is you have to complete your stitches or your task or whatever within 48 hours of your roll. So you have 2 days, and you can roll as soon as you complete your task. So obviously, having made it around the board so many times, many days I've done multiple rolls. But since I started working on the district games, I'm sort of stretching it out a little bit because I can't double count the stitches between the district games and Stitchopoly, being that they're in the same group, Semi-Stain Stitchers. I can double count them between Semi-Stain and Magical, so I'm definitely doing that. But district games is almost done, so I just have to do the 40 beads on here, and then I'll be done with that, and then things will get a little bit easier. But it's fun, having all these different challenges, going on. And I used to really detest counting stitches. I'm still not that fond of it, but it's not that bad if you just count as you go along, I guess. So I am looking forward to working more on this throughout the weekend and getting that finished on Palace Theater and hopefully a good start on the post office. I did sort of reconsider whether I wanted to put the post office next to the Palace Theater. So what I have planned is post office and then firehouse in the corner. And I was like, well, the post office is just kind of prosaic, pedestrian, whatever, next to the fancy Palace Theater with the Art Deco and all the fancy lanterns and all that. But whatever, it's going to be a fancy post office. This is Mill Hill, so it's going to be all beaded and blinged out, so whatever, it'll work. You can have a post office next to the theater, why not? And besides, if we didn't have a post office in the village, how would we get our stitchy stuff in the mail, right? We need a post office. Okay, so that's it for my whips, and I guess I can talk about my haul now. And I don't actually have a lot of stuff. It's just actually the stuff I forgot to show last time. So the first thing I want to show is my order from Color and Cotton. So I ordered from Angela on her Black Friday sale, and I got the stuff in around, I think it was before Valentine's Day, so it was early February. This is Salem 28 count cashel. It's like a gray purple color. Looks great with my sweater, which is kind of like a gray purple color. This is just a fat eighth. And then she included 2 things of hand-dyed floss. This is one of them. They're not labeled, but this is like a pretty pink orange color. Reminds me of watermelon a lot. I actually ordered 2 pieces. One of the pieces I gave to my friend as a Christmas present, and I did actually, there were 2 skeins of floss, so I let her choose the one she liked to go with her fabric, and she chose, the other skein was like purpley blue, and she chose that one, so I gave her her fabric and that floss, and I kept this one for me. So I'm planning to use this for this Fiddlesticks AU pattern that I got on Etsy. It's called The Hobbit Menu or something. Diana, it is Kismet Stitches, has stitched it. I think she's finished it. Hi, Diana, if you're watching. So I really like it, and it's very much like a blackboard sort of design, and I figured this would be good. This is actually a little bit lighter than I thought it would be, but It works for a blackboard, I guess. It could be like a chalky, dusty, chalky blackboard. And then I forgot to show you my beads and stuff I got from Silk Weaver. So this is a little button, a snowman button. I need it for actually my Mill Hill Village, and these beads also needed for Mill Hill Village. So one of the pieces I stitched on the Village, the Needle Workshop, I did it with my friend's pattern. She gave me the pattern after she was done with it, but obviously she used the buttons and the beads and all that. So I used stuff from my stash, and I didn't have any dark green beads as called for, so here they are. I don't think I ever claimed credit for the Needle Workshop on the Village because it wasn't technically finished, I mean in terms of stitch from stash, so I'll probably sew those beads on and then claim credit. That will help with my negative balance some. And then I received a lovely gift from an Instagrammer, Michelle. She had stitched this and showed it on her Instagram feed. This is Country Cottage Needleworks, Santa's list. He's making a list, checking it twice. Santa Claus is coming to town. I just love this, and I admired her piece. And she was so kind to offer to send me the pattern. And much to my surprise, she also included fabric and floss. Such a generous, lovely gift. Thank you so much, Michelle. I love it, and I'm really looking forward to stitching it. This is actually my favorite fabric, Belfast. And it's nice neutral. The floss is Classic Colorworks. So, ribbon red, hickory sticks, 4-leaf clover, and bamboo. So this is lovely, and it looks like it'll certainly be enough floss to stitch the pattern. And I don't know when exactly I'll get around to it, but one of these days, certainly. It's not very big. It's 71 by 136, so 4.5 by 9.5 on 32 count, beige. Yeah, so thank you again, Michelle. I love this. It was such a treat to receive this in the mail, and I'm very excited to stitch it one of these days. And then the other thing I forgot to show you last time was something I got from Leslie at Under the Sea Fabric. So I did a model stitch for her, and in exchange for the model stitch, she sent me this fat quarter of opalescent Belfast Hamlet. This fabric is so gorgeous. Honestly, I think I got the better end of the deal. The model was not very big. I would happily stitch many more models in exchange for fabric. Leslie, on the off chance you're watching this, so let me know. I think this is gorgeous. Look how sparkly it is. I'm planning to put an angel on here. It's going to be the Joan Elliott Blue Christmas Angel. And it's going to be a nighttime feeling, obviously, and I think it's going to be spectacular. I mean, I'll have to floss toss, but yeah. I'm very excited to stitch on that fabric. I think it is just gorgeous. Navy blue, purple, sparkle, 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 some gray and black. I mean, this is really, really awesome. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about plans now. So my plans for March were to spend 5 days focusing on my focus pieces, which were the Bird of Happiness, the Christmas Village, Celtic Winter, Save the Stitches, and Pooh. So I've already done Pooh. I've got the Christmas Village in progress. I sort of did the Bird of Happiness, so if I take it out again, I'll finish it. And then I still need to address Celtic Winter, Save the Stitches, and Save the Stitches. And obviously I'll have a little bit more time in my rotation since I only spent a day on Bird of Happiness and it's pretty much done. So I have another like 4 days or whatever, 5 days cleared up. And then for 3 days, I plan to work on my Fantasy Triptych piece. And then I'll have some bonus days at the end of March. I'll have 3 bonus days because after the 28th, we'll have the 29th, the 30th, and the 31st. So for those bonus days, I don't know what I'm going to do. I might do some stitching, but I'm definitely planning to do some diamond painting and some framing. So yeah, that'll be nice. I haven't actually diamond painted in a while, not since like August or something, or September. I don't know. It was a while back. I just didn't really have that much hobby time towards the end of last year, so I focused on my stitching pieces that I wanted to finish. And yeah, and then also coming up at the end of March is my birthday sal, March 29th. Yeah, March 29th is when it starts, so starting with the letter S. I went over this last time, so I'm not going to beat a dead horse, but yeah, so it's a 7-day challenge, like a daily rotation thing. I am going to try to work on 7 different projects throughout it, although you certainly don't have to. You can participate with one project for multiple days if you want. For me personally, I just want to like do a daily rotation, sort of like get myself in gear for Mania next, in May. So next time, when I'll try to come back and film before March 29th, and I'll show you what I've done between now and then, and I'll also give you like a preview of my projects that I plan for my birthday sal. And then when the birthday sal is going on, I'll probably film like daily vlog style. So one other thing I want to mention, as I learned earlier today, it is Michelle Bendy's birthday weekend. Happy birthday, Michelle, if you're watching. So I'm going to participate with this project that I have on the go, the Palace Theater. So the first day is today. The theme is B, so B for beads. Lots of beads to go on the Palace Theater. Second day is S. S for snow. There's obviously a lot of snow on here. And then the third day is BS for Bendy Stitchy, and that's kind of like open for interpretation. So I'm claiming that this is a very bendy project because I have modified the heck out of it to suit my fancy. I mean, this is basically like something I made up. Each of these buildings is a kit meant to be stitched on perforated paper, so there's 20-some buildings in the series. I picked 12 that I liked, and I'm stitching them together on a big piece of hand-dyed fabric and adding a border to it and all that. So yeah, this is definitely a bendy project. All right, so I hope you have a wonderful birthday, Michelle. And like I said, I will be back in a couple weeks to wrap up March and preview my birthday sal. All right, everyone, happy stitching. Be well, be kind. Ta-ta!